Hello. Welcome to the MR Podcast. I am Hannah Lassiter, the founder and speaker of the MR Podcast, Mentorship Revolution, and also the new author of Poetry for Girls That Struggle. You can still go grab your copy at Amazon. Make sure you type in Poetry for Girls That Struggle and grab 2 in case you have a friend or a family member or a daughter, sister, or a niece who need to hear the words that can be found within this book. I dedicate this book to you, all the women that are listening, and to those that you know who can hear this message and be encouraged and uplifted and pushed in the right direction. So, you all, I hope that your Friday has been well. We all know this is TGIF, and that means that we have to thank God that it's Friday. Thank God that it's Friday. The weekend is beginning, and we're all doing the things we love, or at least we're settling down, we're resting, we're kind of like slowing down our mojo, that we normally do during the week, and we're kind of getting into retire mode for the weekend, I guess. I hope that you have been able to do that or start that despite all your obligations and the errands you may have to do, but I just hope that you have a great weekend. So today on the MR Podcast, I usually do these. I want to give a short message on what it's like to you have to trust yourself in the process, which this will be pertaining partly to our affirmation series, part 10, trusting yourself in the process, which we started the affirmation series in 2018. So hopefully by now you're on board and you're like, I'm going to be a part of this. And we now have a private group on Facebook. So if you are interested in having an exclusive insider access, you need to let me know, or you need to at least request on Facebook at Mentorship. That's the name of our page. So I want to talk about how trusting in yourself in the process is a very, very complex and very much when you mention the concept of both of these, which is trust, well, actually there's 3. There's trust, is yourself, and the process. Those are 3 huge concepts. So when you think about all 3 of these, you think about how each are important individually, but together they're intensely important. So first you have to trust. And trust is one of those things that we've all had something done to us that can break our trust, or it can challenge us to not trust as easily, which is the case of why you see differences in children and adults. Children can be a little bit more trusting, a little bit more naive, but on the other hand, adults can be more experienced and more careful in how they choose to trust. But at the same time, adults can make mistakes too, and we can become, maybe too mistrusting, too afraid to trust, and not just trust others necessarily, but I would say trusting in ourselves and trusting in our faith. We can become very guarded against trust in the ways that can actually purify us and cleanse us and lead us down a brighter path. So sometimes we got to deal with those trust issues, and that's the reason why I am talking about trusting yourself in the process, because I know that as a woman and as people in general, we're going to encounter challenges and incidents in our life that's going to challenge our foundation of trust. So we have to be prepared to know what trusting in yourself in the process looks like, especially for us adults. So trusting in yourself in the process is number 1, rebuilding trust, regaining trust, redefining trust. And number 2, we're going to talk about how yourself is extremely important, because what kind of relationship are you having with yourself? Do you even know what a relationship with yourself looks like? And have you been neglecting that relationship? Have you been undermining that relationship deprioritizing that relationship. We have to think about the relationship we have with ourselves, because I think all too often we forget that the relationship that we have with ourselves can also reflect the relationships we have with others around us. So sometimes poor relationship with self can be poor social matters. Not always the case, but we can see how they cling to each other. So trusting in yourself is so extremely vital. It's extremely vital. And last but not least, the process. Some of you may be like, what is the process? What is that referring to? Well, that will be another podcast episode. But I will most certainly say that the process is probably actually the fulfillment, or you can put both the trust and self into the process, because the process deals with trust, the process deals with self. So it's like the middle ground for understanding what this means. But the process is pretty much life. It's pretty much intuition. It's pretty much having self-awareness and, also, so the process is kind of like the broader part, containing all of what trusting in yourself in the process is about. So the process is pretty much lifelong habits, lifelong, developing those habits and those patterns. So that's what the process is. And the process really is extremely important. And that's not something that I think you can understand within a week or a month. The process is always unfolding. So I hope that you enjoyed this podcast today, on which I talked about trusting in yourself in the process. And, also I want to make it relevant to what I am going through right now in life. And many of you, I hopefully know by now, know that I'm interested in public speaking and becoming a motivational speaker, being an educator, being a resource, being a person that people can seek, maybe, counseling, mentorship, of course, because I created Mentorship Revolution. But that's kind of what I'm doing right now in my life in so many ways. And I'm constantly being challenged, but also that I'm constantly learning to relax and kind of like celebrate who I am now in the moment, and know that going forward I have what I need. And it's partly to do with knowing myself. So I hope that you enjoyed this podcast. I hope that your Friday has been great. And I hope that you will subscribe to the MR Podcast, which can be found on all mainstream platforms, including Spreaker. So please subscribe, please follow, and come back for more. Thank you for listening.